before we get started with our episode today, I just wanted to say a huge shout out to all my Patreon supporters. Our Patreon supporters of the week are Jamie McLean, Justin Akers, Brian Heath, and Brian Boog. You guys just won a $10 gift card to Jake's Bait and Tackle. Again, I want to thank you guys. You guys are the 4 winners of this week's Jake's Bait and Tackle giveaway on Patreon. So message me, Facebook, Instagram, email me, whatever you have to do to get a hold of me so you guys can get your gift card. But again, if you're a Patreon member, every week going forward, I'm going to be doing raffles for different prize giveaways. So if you're not a Patreon member, go check it out. But again, this week's Patreon members are Jamie McLean, Justin Akers, Brian Heath, and Brian Boog. Thank you guys so much. And for everyone else, enjoy the episode. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Fishing the DMV. I'm your host, Thomas Ahrens, and today I have a really special guest. I have on Dave Thompson, who just won the Battle of Five Lakes. I believe this is Battle of Five Lakes number 2 because they flip-flopped them. I don't know, but we're gonna call it number 2 with 82 inches. It was a really tough grind out there. But before we get into the tournament, as always, Dave, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
As always with all my guests, like, what got you into fishing?
I started fishing when I lived up in Connecticut. It's kind of like a child. We had a pond within walking distance. So I caught my first bluegill there. I caught my first bass there. We could, I couldn't, in my mind, it was a lot bigger than it probably was. It might've been a third of an acre size pond, but, don't know how deep it was. We never really did anything but bank fish there, but caught my first fish there. Then when we moved down to Maryland in the 70s, my brother and I used to patrol Lake Triadelphia and the Rocky Gorge out of a wooden rowboat. And we're quite sure whether the fishing was just really bad in those lakes back in those days, or we just didn't know what we were doing. It was probably a lot of both. Because the information that we had available, you get I don't even know if Fishing Facts was out there or Bassmaster magazine. I mean, once a month, you get a little tidbit here and there. There wasn't really a whole lot of reliable information. And the lure selection and the rods and reels, they're nothing like they are today. So we did that, through the 70s. I went off to college at University of Maryland. And then when I got back, then I started getting back into bass fishing pretty much from the bank. And Clopper Lake in Seneca Creek State Park, also a Black Hill Regional Park where Little Seneca Lake is. And I remember catching a 4-pounder on a spinnerbait, and I was wading in Clopper Lake at the time, which was technically against the law, but you weren't allowed to be in the water. But I never would have been able to get to that one corner that I wanted to hit with a spinnerbait, kind of running across. And I caught a 4-pounder, and I was like, I need to get out there, find a way, because there's a lot more of these fish in there. And that's when I went searching for that kayak. That Hudson Trail Outfitters, walked in there looking for a canoe. And there was a kayak hanging from the ceiling that looked like it would fit perfectly in the bed of my pickup truck. So that was it. Out the door I went. I remember the first bass I ever caught out of a kayak was probably an 8-inch bass on a tiny trap. And later that same day, I think I caught like one that was close to 3 on a regular size trap. Wow. So that's where it all started. And then I fished, started fishing the Potomac River and any other lake and reservoir in the area. The nice thing about that kayak is I could throw it on my shoulder and I could walk a quarter of a mile through the woods to get to a spot, and plop that thing in there and carry it back out. They had, I don't know what it weighed, probably 35 pounds, maybe something like that, 35, 40 pounds.
What got you into kayak tournament fishing? Like, how did you find your way for NVKBA or any other club?
They didn't exist back when I got started. I'd gone, you figure probably close to 20 years before kayak tournaments ever were like a thing. I started getting involved in some of the KBF monthly online challenges. And so there was some of that. And I think I did a tournament, also a KBF. That might have been the first tournament I ever did, was down at Sandy Cooper. And I also did another KBF tournament on Toledo Bend, which was later. But the local series, the first one that I heard about was MAKBF. And I think we started that one in 2013. And we had 4 tournaments that year. And then 2014, again, 4 tournaments that year. And that's how that started for the where you had a regular series, a kayak series, so you could join and fish their tournaments. And I'm not sure when NVKBA started. It was a few years later than that. But so, and MAKBF was a lot of Potomac River, Rocky Gorge. The river did Triadelphia, but it was very much a Maryland-centric tournament series in the beginning.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
How, and we talked about this before we started recording a little bit, but let's get into it. You don't have a motor. How does that affect your mindset when it comes to just fishing or tournament fishing, when it comes to breaking down an area where you launch all that stuff?
You probably have been doing it so long and exclusively that way that I don't know, what do I look for when I'm out on a kayak? I also happen to have a Hobie compass, but I feel odd without a paddle in my lap when I'm fishing. So even when I'm in the compass, I have a tendency to, when I get where I want to go, I'll yank the drive and I'll paddle it. It's just that my crescent light tackle paddle is a whole lot better. So that's the one. And there's nothing additional to hook up. There's no motor to hook up. There's no pedal drive to pop in there. It's just your basically throw and go type kayak. It's a 12-footer, weighs 75 pounds. The thing that I really like about that one is the front hatch opens and I could throw every rod I own inside of that kayak, because I only really like having 2 or 3 rods out on the deck. I don't have anything. I don't have rods vertically. Everything's on the deck in front of me. But if I need to have a Ned rig on a spinning rod, it's inside the hull. So that's one thing I can't do with the compass. It doesn't have the same kind of storage, but yeah, I'll probably just stick with paddling, until I can't anymore.
It definitely forces you to pick areas apart and be very methodical with it. Friend at Sleeter's this past week, dude, I don't know if you want me to tell your spot, so I'll just say that you were at this lake. So he was at Sleeter's, and he didn't have a motor, and he's just very, very thorough and just picking everything apart. And at some point I drove past him, is like, are you alive? Because he's just been sitting there in that same spot. And he's like, no. He's like, dude, I'm just going to be hitting every single thing. And he did pretty well in the event. And it's good because it puts little bumpers on your bowling alley and forces you to really work that area. And it can a lot of times have a benefit. Right.
Yeah. You fish differently. You can't go hit a lay down 2 miles down the lake or something like that. You've got to plan ahead, particularly in a tournament. I mean, if I'm out there fishing, from sunrise to sunset, I will go hit that lay down. That's 2 miles away. I'll get there eventually. But you check, you check things differently. And I think, I try to be out there and pay attention, more. Like I tell a lot of people, I've had a fish finder on the kayak for 35 years. And, but my favorite setting is still OFF, be out there, paying attention to what you're seeing, looking around and not staring at the screen.
It is interesting because I do think I fish. I mean, at least with the tournaments, I've bad sample size because I fished more kayak tournaments than boat tournaments this year. As you guys know, just to recap, I have scope and 360 on my boat. I don't have that on my kayak. And again, sampling sizes are a little skewed because I fish more kayak tournaments, but I've done better in kayaking. And I think, I don't know if it's just how I set up, how I fish, but I don't get analysis paralysis when scope is not on the kayak or boat, which is an interesting thing I'm realizing in how I fish and how it's different. So yeah. Huh. So we get into the NVKBA season, and you have 5 lakes to pick from. And then Mike loved the curveball of Lake Brittle. God bless Lee Wells for going out there and doing that, dude. That was impressive. But anyway, yeah. So how did you pick where you wanted to start or how you wanted to go about your event?
Oh, well, when I looked at the list of lakes, I look at Occoquan and I'm like, my PB should come out of that lake in the dead of winter. That would be the place to be throwing a jig when all the crews are not running around up and down the lake with their motorboats chasing them. But I would think of the lakes on that list that has bigger fish, that probably has more fish. I mean, if you scope around in Occoquan, you're going to see so much bait it'll make your head explode. At least I've had some other tournaments with some guys, and they said everywhere you point, there's a school of bait fish. There's just a lot of food in that lake.
It can be in a little bit of analysis paralysis,
Yeah. Yeah. It's well, how do you make them interested in what you're throwing as opposed to the 200 little bait fish that just swam past their nose.
So you got to figure it out. You get there. I mean, I've heard different things from different competitors that it was a zoo trying to get there in the morning. There's a lot of people lined up. What was your experience like just trying to get into the water?
I was shocked. The tournaments where we've had Occoquan available, I've always fished Occoquan. And usually what happens is when we get there, there's 15, 16 guys stacked up behind the gate waiting for them to get it open. But it was open Saturday. I mean, I drove right through. They had it open before 6. So I was, not rushed. I had to hang out, at the boat ramp until I could legally launch. So not a problem this past Saturday getting on there. Usually, they'll be 5-10 minutes late before they get that gate open. And then there's a mad scramble to get to the water.
It's the fun part of it.
Yeah.
So you get on the water.
Yeah.
Did it come blow by blow? Did it come hot and heavy for you? Did you have to scrap all day?
No, it was like there's a couple of little points that I know, and I went to go check them out, and there were bass on them, and none of them were 12 inches long. So I was throwing a ribbon tailworm, and so I was getting bites. I was chucking a crankbait around to see if I could catch anything quick and easy, but nothing was hitting that. So I'm throwing a ribbon tailworm, and I'm getting a bite. Boom, set the hook, get him in there. Oh, he looks close enough to measure, but he's not 12. Okay, that's okay. At least we're getting bites. Go back, catch another one. It's like, again, 11 and a half or something like that. It's not doing me any good. I missed one that I said, "Ooh, that was a bigger swirl. That might have been a better fish." But I'm messing around there, and all of a sudden, I've pretty much exhausted that spot. And I said, I've got to go looking for something different. And what I came across with where the sun was coming up, when that channel swings into the bank on Occoquan, you get these kind of like rock walls where the bottom is 7, 8, 9 feet down. The area is shaded, and they've got that hard rock wall, kind of like a trapping any bait. So I'm throwing a 6-inch black and blue Senko wacky rig. and I'm just letting it go down those rock banks, and boom, I get a 17-incher. I'm like, okay, yeah. Then for some reason, I turn around and throw straight out from that area just to say, well, and I think that one was a 16 and a quarter or 16 and a half, whatever it was. And I mess around in that area for a little bit longer, and I said, well, I guess I've exhausted. So I start working my way down, looking for a similar situation. I found similar situations, but I just wasn't getting bites. So I decided, well, let me go back in the direction I came. Went back to the exact same rock where I had caught the first one, and I got another 16. So I was sitting on 3. It's still pretty early in the morning, and I'm feeling okay. Well, this is not, I'm looking like I could get a good limit, but that was it. Everything dried up. A bit again. I was catching short fish, and I was seeing bigger fish on the fish finder, but I wasn't catching anything. So I'm not sure when the panic started to set in, but I've had this before. I've had that several times this season where I've had 3 fish early, and I'm like, oh, I just need 2 more. I just really need 2, and I never got them. So I'm starting to feeling that, like, ooh, that deja vu all over again. So I'm running around, and I'm looking for like a 12-inch rat in some of the places. So I suspect where I said, I think I can get a 12-inch. Just get 5 on the board, and then you can go fishing for a big fish.
Were you stressed?
I was more annoyed that I'm like, I'm in this predicament again this year. It's been a tough year. I don't think this is probably, I fished less this year due to work than in many years that I can remember. But I'm running around. But I think I'm ultimately I'm working to a place that I want to get to, which I know where some kind of like main lake points are, and so I'm messing around. I said I might as well just go to that main lake because I'm beginning to think I'm running out of time, and I got up to main lake point again, throwing a bigger ribbon tail worm, and I got an 18.25. And I'm like, oh, okay. So now I just need 1 fish to fill the limit. So of course I catch like maybe 3 more that are short. But then finally I get a 14.25 to finish off the limit. And, so then I spent the rest of my time that I had before we had to get off the water, chucking a jig on that point, just looking for, an upgrade if possible, but it never came around, and I only caught 5 keepers.
That's hardcore, man. I mean, that's so 82 inches on the day. Where was your head at? Did you think you were in contention? Where did you think you were?
Because of the way my day worked out, I had looked at the leaderboard early, and people were catching. It looked like people were well on their way, and by the time I got into my situation where I'm chasing a 12-incher up and down lake in coves, the little points and stuff like that, which didn't work out. The standings had been turned off, so that when I got to that main lake point and I get that 18, I said, oh, okay, and then I get the limit. I'm like, all right, well, I got a few more minutes to fish, so I'll keep fishing here. But I'm thinking like, that length generally doesn't work in a tournament where there's 59 anglers. You go like, no, that's not going to work. Low 80s. I know it's summertime, but I didn't think that was going to work out at all. So I get back, I go to the place where we're going to have the award ceremony. Some people are starting to throw out some numbers. Oh, this person was leading with like 79 late in the day. I'm going like 79. I'm going like, nah, it can't be. That can't be true. But the more I talked to people, I said, maybe it's true. That's what it turned out to be. So,
it's that's the fun part when they turn off the standings like that and you play the guessing game. I remember looking up at the standings and I saw 79 too. And I was like, and I was like, whoa, that can't be right. Like it just seemed low.
It did.
Now, after the fact, I did check last year's standings when this tournament was held, and it was eerily close. I think.
Was it?
I think last year, this year was just a little bit better, but not by a lot. Which again is just shocking because Occoquan Reservoir, Burke Lake, a lot of these places Lake Frederick, like there's a lot of big fish in there. So
Yeah.
I was again so surprised. It was such a tough event, but
Mhm.
again. Dude, I mean, 82 inches. Congratulations. Absolutely awesome. Where was your head at after this win?
This is like the sixth time I've won.
Ooh.
So
I didn't know that, dude. That's awesome.
oh yeah. Well, but also, I've also been doing these since 2013. So, and some of those were pretty small events. You get some of these, you get some of the MAKBFs and the NVKBAs where, 30, 40, 50 anglers, it's not uncommon. But I've also fished some where there's like 15 people.
What win out of your six stands out the most in your mind?
It was probably the first one. It was the MAKBF in the second year, first tournament of 2014 on Mattawoman Creek. And I looked and we had 42 anglers and I'm like, whoa, 42? Second year of that series. And I'm like, it just seemed like, wow, okay, this is pretty impressive. We got 42 guys fishing here. And I think the reason I won that particular tournament is because I had a stakeout pole and the wind was howling. No, I don't think I wound up winning it on a football jig and fishing an area for the entire day that was about the size of 3 parking spots. I just sat there and the fish came to me. But I saw people out there trying to. A lot of people were paddling back in those days, so the wind was just killing them, and it was screaming that day.
What kayak are you running now, and what kayak would you suggest for people that just want to paddle and aren't thinking about a motor, trolling motor, and all that stuff?
Yeah, I like. I've had a lot. I mean, I did Wilderness Systems kayaks after I got rid of that first horrible sit inside kayak. I did Wilderness Systems Tarpon 100s and Tarpon 120s, which were very nice. But the seat on those is, of course, on the top of the kayak. There's no elevation, so I moved into the Ride series, which had an elevated seat in the Wilderness Systems, and then I always really liked Wilderness Systems Attack 120. But the one thing that a lot of those kayaks have in common is when you're paddling them in, you feel like you have a parking brake on. You do a stroke and it decelerates rather quickly. The crescent light tackle, they're made for paddlers. I can get that thing up over 5 miles an hour without really straining myself all that much. And it holds its glide. It glides very well. Do you have a Tarpon 130X?
I have a Radar.
Okay.
135.
135. Okay.
Hulls are incredible though. Like they're so durable.
Yeah, they are. They're well-made kayaks. The crescents are really they're just kind of like they're a paddling thing. So the light tackle 2, which is out now, has a lot of nice features. I really like that cavernous hull where I can throw a bunch of stuff inside there, and it's mostly fishing gear. They've got a Shoaly, which is really good on rivers. They've got a Smalley that also kind of like a creek boat. But their stuff is, you can put a motor on them, and they're coming in line with making them easier to motorize. But they're really more designed for good paddling performance. So.
And it's crazy that, I guess in 2025, that's where we've gotten, where you have kayaks where if you want a oil rig that you need a motor for, you can get that, or something that is a little bit more maneuverable and paddleable. And a fact here that I just want to mention for people that will be eventually listening to this that's trying to get into kayak fishing is the weight is a huge thing. I have a 135. It's a big girl, and with all the tackle, the weight, and the trolling motor, me loading that back and forth out of a truck is getting exhausting. I didn't think about that when I had this plan with my kayak. So I think it's another thing to think about is how heavy are some of these things going to be and where are you going to put it when you're traveling?
Yep. Even with a lithium battery,
Yeah.
But that my light tackle, I can walk around with it in one hand. You know, I think it's 70 pounds.
Wow.
So, and it's got actually it's got 5 handles on it really, but they're a lot easier to once you get the nose into the bed of the pickup truck. I've always been like a proponent of grab and go. I had a job where I could be at my desk, leave, go home, get my kayak, and be paddling on Black Hills in under 60 minutes. And
wow.
That was back when that place used to pump out 5-pounders like nobody's business, and they bite on weekday nights. They don't bite so well on weekends.
I've been saying this for a while. I just think they're educated, man. They're like deer. They know when deer season starts. They know when it's Saturday morning and they hear all those Mercury outboards fire off. I mean, yeah. Black Hills too, man. That's a neat little place.
I got one that was like 23 out of there one time on a weekend, but that's only because like lightning was just popping all over the place, and they were recommending that people get off the water. I just didn't listen. I stayed out, and so there was I had like an entire afternoon alone on, on that place, and a predictable point with like a 12-inch worm. Nailed one of those, but they're much easier to catch during the week, but at the time it was like, I said, "Want to catch a 500? Well, I'll tell you exactly where to go. Up your odds. Can't guarantee you'll get one, but it was a great place."
Would you consider that your home body of water?
Not anymore. It's changed a lot. The hydrilla used to be up at the surface, laying over in 14 feet of water. Your deep weed line there was like 14 feet. It's changed a lot. The grass isn't what it used to be. The lake's aging and everything like that. But I'm not sure I really have a specific home water. The last couple of years with being busy with work, I have a tendency to fish tournaments. That's what forces me to get out there. It's too easy if I don't have a tournament to work on a weekend. So it was my home. Like I said, I could when I was working in Gaithersburg, it was a weeknight type thing. And when we were doing those online tournaments, it's like, well, I've been doing a KBF online tournament, but I've also fished, at that place 20 times this month. So, predictably, it was a W.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So, do you have any fishing adventures coming up that you're going to be trying to do this year? Anything on your schedule?
I'm not sure. I'm retiring shortly.
Ooh, congratulations.
So, what I will be doing a lot of fishing at some places in a matter of weeks. So, there are some places I really want to get to. But what I've decided to do, because like I said, I did a Toledo a tournament on Toledo Bend. If I ever go to Toledo Bend again, I'm not fishing a tournament. A tournament's like a half day of fishing. If I'm going to go all the way down there, I want to fish from before sunrise till after sunset. Be out in the water.
Exactly.
So,
I think in today's culture, we kind of get lost in just fishing for fun. I mean, I agree with you though, like tournaments kind of forces me to get out in the water sometimes when life gets busy, but not having to compete or whatever, just getting out there and exploring is kind of what it's all about.
Just it's been, if you're really taking your time and not panicking trying to catch a 12-incher. Like that's it. It's like if I could just throw a jig. It's one of the reasons I love winter fishing is I can just go out there with a jig and crawl it on the bottom all day long, and maybe I don't catch anything, but that's okay. doesn't. Yeah.
Was there one fish that you think, looking back on this last tournament, that was a difference maker?
It had to be that 18. Yeah. Because I only had 3 at the time, but I go like 18, like, yeah, well, that one clearly was significantly above the average size of the fish that everybody was catching that day. So that was the difference maker right there. Of course, if I didn't get the 14.25 after that, then we wouldn't be talking. So
everything happens for a reason, right?
Does.
When it's your time, it's your time.
Yeah.
I think people get too stressed out about fishing tournaments when they don't understand that. Like, to be good, yeah, you'll be consistent, but to win, it's just, there is a luck thing of like everything goes right. You don't miss that fish. You don't bird's nest. You don't have one jump off your board. Like, right. And don't take it too seriously. It'll happen.
Exactly. Yes.
Dave, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. There you guys have it. The winner from the latest NVKBA event, the Battle of 5 Lakes with 82 inches. Sir, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything we can promote or anyone give a shout out to?
Yeah, really, don't have anything to promote. So, nope, I think I'm good.
Awesome stuff, sir. And then hopefully I'll see you at the next event,
yes.
Guys, link in the episode description to NVKBA. Go check them out. And then, guys, if you want to join Patreon closes September 26th. I'm shutting it down. No new members until sometime in 2026 itself. So go check that out. And we'll see you guys next time on Fishing the DMV. Bye. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.